Good Thursday, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Conversation Daily News. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Well, we made it over the hump, and we're in the home stretch towards the weekend. We, of course, have your news headlines coming up on this Thursday. We have the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and in today's Entertainment Spotlight, you've been part of my conversation with senior scientist Dr. Jackie Faherty, discussing her love of the universe and a special event taking place in the skies this week. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with their Thursday headlines. In international news, Russia strikes back by cutting off gas to two NATO nations. Russia cut off natural gas to NATO members Poland and Bulgaria on Wednesday and threatened to do the same to other countries, dramatically escalating its standoff with the West over the war in Ukraine. European leaders decried the move as blackmail. A day after the U.S. and other Western allies vowed to speed more and heavier weapons to Ukraine, the Kremlin used its most essential export as leverage against two of Kyiv's staunch backers. Gas prices in Europe shot up on the news. The tactic could eventually force targeted nations to resort to gas rationing and could deal another blow to economies suffering from rising prices. At the same time, it could deprive Russia of badly needed income to fund its war effort. Western leaders and analysts portrayed the move by the Kremlin as a bid to both punish and divide the Allies so as to undermine their united support for Ukraine. Poland has made a major gateway for the delivery of weapons to Ukraine and confirmed this week that it is sending the country tanks. It also has been a vocal proponent of sanctions against the Kremlin. Bulgaria, under a new liberal government that took office last fall, has cut many of its old ties to Moscow and likewise supported measures against Russia. It has also hosted Western fighter jets at a new NATO outpost on Bulgaria's Black Sea coast. The gas cuts do not immediately put the two countries in a dire trouble. Poland especially has been working for many years to line up other suppliers, and the continent is heading into summer, making gas less essential for households. Yet the cutoff and the Kremlin warning that other countries could be next sent shivers of worry through the 27-nation European Union. Germany, the largest economy on the continent, and Italy are among Europe's biggest consumers of Russian natural gas, though they have already been taking steps to reduce their dependence on Moscow. Most European countries have publicly balked at Russia's demand for rubles, but it is not clear how many have actually faced a moment of decision so far. Greece's next scheduled payment to Moscow is due on May 25th, and the government must decide then whether to comply. Russia claimed its missiles hit a batch of weapons that the U.S. and European nations had delivered to Ukraine. One person was killed and at least two were injured when rockets hit a residential neighborhood in one of the Ukrainian cities. Western officials, speaking on condition of anonymity to discuss intelligence findings, said Russia has made slow progress in the Donbas region in the east, with minor gains, including the capture of villages and small towns south of one part of the country. In national news, post-Floyd probe finds discrimination by Minneapolis police. The Minneapolis Police Department has engaged in a pattern of race discrimination for at least a decade, including stopping and arresting black people at a higher rate than white people, using force more often on people of color, and maintaining a culture where racist language is tolerated, a state investigation launched by George Floyd's killing found. The report released on Wednesday by the Minnesota Department of Human Rights following a nearly 2-year investigation said the agency and the city would negotiate a court-enforceable agreement to address the long list of problems identified in the report with input from residents, officers, city staff, and others. The report said police department data demonstrates significant and racial disparities with respect to officers' use of force, traffic stops, searches, citations, and arrests. And it said officers use covert social media to surveil black individuals and black organizations unrelated to criminal activity. In more national news, Fauci says U.S. in a different moment, but pandemic is not over. Dr. Anthony Fauci said Wednesday the coronavirus is under better control in the United States, but the pandemic isn't over, and the challenge is how to keep improving the situation. We are in a different moment of the pandemic, said Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, in an interview with the Associated Press. After a brutal winter surge, we've now decelerated and transitioned into more of a controlled phase, he said. By no means does that mean the pandemic is over. Fauci said the U.S. appears to be out of what he calls the biggest phase of the pandemic, huge variant surges that at their worst sparked hundreds of thousands of infections daily, along with tens of thousands of hospitalizations and thousands of deaths. In business news, stocks regained their footing a day after big tech sell-off. Technology companies led stocks modestly higher on Wall Street in afternoon trading on Wednesday as the market clawed back some of its losses from a big sell-off a day earlier. And finally, in entertainment news, Helen Mirren graces cover of People's Beautiful issue. Helen Mirren graces People magazine's The Beautiful issue in a cover story that touches on her thoughts of beauty and how the Oscar winner still gets nervous before filming a role. The magazine on Wednesday revealed the cover of the annual issue, which hits newsstands Friday. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's on time for the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich. Mary Ellen, take it away.
Hi, this is Mary Ellen with your Truth of the Day. Never put money before your spouse, significant other, children, or family. The most important things in life cannot be seen or touched. They are felt with the heart. This is a paraphrase from my favorite quote. Money is a good thing and a necessity, and it must be kept in perspective. Spending time with your spouse, your children, your family, and your friends should be the most important part of your daily routine. Even when you cannot spend time with everyone, at least contact them and spend a portion of your day making memories with your spouse or children. Always be grateful as you motivate yourself to share your time with these very important people. Today, spend time with the very important people in your life and be sure to unplug. As you go about, enjoy the day.
We are part of my conversation coming up with senior scientist Dr. Jackie Faherty in today's Entertainment Spotlight. Stay with us. You're listening to Conversation Daily News. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with the Entertainment Spotlight. Dr. Jackie Faherty, senior scientist at the Department of Astrophysics at the American Museum of Natural History, joined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about her passion for the universe and what's happening this week. Here's a bit of our conversation.
Great to see your own love and fascination with the skies and the universe. What has it been like for you, Dr. Faherty, to be able to share that with all of us?
Oh, I love it. You know, I really wish more people were hanging out with their love of the stars. I usually tell people that the nighttime sky is the original Netflix. You know, it's the original entertainment zone for people. But nowadays, people turn more to being inside and looking at screens rather than like letting their imagination go wild with what they see when they walk outside and look up. And, you know, it varies in what you can see depending on where you are in the world. I live in New York City. The skies aren't the greatest for stargazing, but they're also not the worst thing. You can still see a lot of stuff.
Right. And there is such beauty, right, in the skies. And as I mentioned, there's something special happening this week with a four-planet alignment. Now, typically, Dr. Faherty, as you know, we normally get excited about the eclipse, right? That's the big thing that people normally look forward to. But talk to us about what's happening this week with this alignment.
Yeah, you know, so the interesting thing about what people get excited about is it's also what's the easiest to kind of like see. An eclipse is pretty straightforward. The sun's going to basically get super dim, or if you're in the path of totality, it's going to disappear behind the moon and you're going to see this like gaseous corona come out and it's going to look awesome. But planets are a little bit different because they can look a bit more like stars, and people don't always realize that they're staring at a planet when they walk outside.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning in this edition of Conversation Daily News. We'll be back to you guys on tomorrow to wrap up this week and this month. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversation Daily News today. Let's make today amazing. Take care.